Good evening. I'm Scott Westerfeld, author of the Uglies series, and I'm here with Cassandra Clare, author of the City of Bones, City of Ashes, City of Glass series known as Mortal Instruments. So I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure everyone wants to know, is Simon going to die?
Simon.
Because, you know, I think he's got to die.
You think he's got to die?
I think everyone would be so happy if he died.
I do get a lot of letters about Simon voting one way or the other on his demise, so I'm going to just lay it to rest here today in the studio. Simon survives City of Glass.
Yes!
He does not die.
I didn't really want Simon to die.
I don't Simon secretly.
I don't want to get that hate mail, so.
Simon, for those who have read the previous two books, has died multiple times in the series, and I felt that he was done with that, and that whoever else might get it in the neck in City of Glass, Simon was going to survive and thrive. So I'm telling you now, Simon makes it all the way through City of Glass, not without some bumps on the way, but he does survive.
So sometimes after I've finished a series, I sort of wonder what happens after it. And I know, you know, obviously fans wonder too. We all get fan mail saying, tell us what happens after. When do they have kids? What happens to their kids? What happens to their grandkids? So do you ever think of that way? I mean, do you know, for instance, what happens, say, to Simon after the series is all over?
Well, interestingly, I do know what happens to Simon more than I know what happens to the other characters after City of Glass, because once I determined that he was going to survive, I started thinking about his character arc, and he really has almost the character arc of a superhero in these series. He goes from an ordinary guy dwelling in Brooklyn, no special powers, nothing remarkable about him, to basically a well-nigh invincible, immortal killer. And given that, I felt it was natural for me to wonder what might happen to him in the world afterwards when he has to return to his normal life. So I have not planned any series that would continue from the Mortal Instruments yet specifically, but I have given some thought to a spin-off series that would focus on Simon and what happens to him now that he is basically an invincible vampire who can go out in the daylight and who cannot be killed. And I started writing a little bit of a road trip short story in which he is traveling across the country. He meets up with a vampire hunter, and together they have to take on a town of evil vampires.
Have you finished this yet? Or?
I'm like halfway through the story.
And it's going to be a short story? It's not one of those short stories that's going to turn
into
balloon? A quadrilogy or something?
Well, it's not a short story for a specific anthology, so I just decided to kind of start the idea. I was given the assignment to write a vampire short story for an anthology. I started to write this story about Simon thinking it might be something interstitial. I realized that it was of no interest to anyone who hadn't read the previous three books and probably wouldn't be appropriate for the anthology. But it was such a fun concept that I decided to continue writing it, and it will either be a long short story or it will be the beginning of a new series about Simon. I don't know yet.
Well, you heard it here first. Did you introduce anything entirely new in the third book? Like, did you break the world twist? It opens a new door in the third book at all?
I don't think I hope I didn't bring up anything that is completely inexplicable and left dangling. But I think that in the first and second book there are very strong hints about mysterious experiments that were perhaps done on Valentine's children by him many, many years ago. And so in the third book we find out what those are, and those do twist and play with the rules of the books as per what the Shadowhunters have told Clare is true about the world before. She's asked questions, you know, do these certain kind of magical creatures exist? And they've said, no, they don't. But as it turns out, that's not actually technically true. Since I'm gearing up to write my next series, which is a prequel to these Mortal Instruments series, there's a lot of references made in the third book to things that happened a long time ago in the past that are actually going to be addressed in the next series.
Well, that's cool. Why don't we do, just before we end, let's talk a little bit about your next series. Okay. What's the time period?
It's 1878. It takes place in London, New York, and Shanghai.
And Shanghai? Well, that's kind of exciting.
I'm excited about Shanghai, especially because that means I think I get to go there so I can do
So
research.
It's 1878, so it's after the Civil War.
Yeah.
And before World War I or anything like that?
Before World War I, after the Civil War, after the Opium War, no telephones, but there is gaslight.
There's gaslight and horse-drawn carriages, no cars, no
horse-drawn carriages, but there is railway. Yeah.
That's exciting. That's a great period.
It's a fun time.
And great clothes.
Absolutely great clothes. Having a lot of fun with the clothes. A lot of fun with the technology as it was of the time period. I wanted to do something that sort of focused on the Victorians' obsession with automata and mechanical creatures. So
chess players.
yes,
you know,
exactly.
Robot chess players and stuff
Robot
like that.
chess players, robot magicians, and fortune tellers. And so it centers on an evil conspiracy by a man who owns a big corporation of sort of clockwork gadgets and gadgets, who is actually secretly building a demon-controlled clockwork army to take over the world.
Oh, wow. Well, let's see, now you've given it away.
Well,
What's that called? Do we have a name?
Right at the moment, it's called The Infernal Devices, is the name of the series, and the first book is called The Clockwork Princess.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Good to talk to you, Scott.